8. Today we are going to start chapter number 8. Chapter 7 was related with the corporate governance, and chapter 8 is continuing with the corporate governance. But here we are using or we will discuss the approaches to the governance or approaches to the corporate governance. Focus of this chapter is rules and principle based approach to corporate governance. We will discuss family structure, although we also discussed slightly family structure in our last class. But today we will discuss in detail impact of the family structure or how family structure can influence the corporate governance. And as well as we will also discuss insider domination structure. So these are the three basic areas which needs to be discussed in here. First one is rule and principle based approaches to corporate governance. First of all, what is rule based approach? Rule based means law. Rule means law and regulation. Company is obligated to follow laws and regulations, or it is an obligation of the on the company to follow rules and regulations. It is not possible for the company to deviate from rules and regulations. If they will deviate from the rules and regulations, it means they will have to pay fine. What is this rule? Suppose we all stop at red when we are on the road at red signal. This is a rule. At green, we will start to move. It is a rule. When signal is at yellow, we start our car and we are ready to move. This is called what? This is called rule. Law is called rule, and if you will not follow the law, you have to face the penalties. So this is called what? This is called rule-based approach. In governance or in corporate governance, first approach is called rule-based approach. Rule-based approach is usually followed by US. In the US, and now all of the companies are expected to follow Sarbanes-Oxley approach. Sarbanes-Oxley approach is what? Sarbanes-Oxley approach is SOX. So SOX is a what? SOX is a law right now. So you have to follow this law or this rule. If you will not follow this law or rule, you have to face the penalties. Second one is principle based approach. Principle based approach means what? Principle based approach is the one where we follow a code of ethics. Principle based means you are expected to perform your job within certain boundaries. This is called principle based approach. Principle based is the one where you are expected to follow code of practice, which are introduced by any regulatory authority in the country, but it is not a law. Although we expect from the companies or the businesses or the accounting professionals that they will follow within the codes of practice or within code of ethics. This is called principle. Requires the company to to the spirit rather than the letter of the code. They would have to follow the spirit rather than letter of the code. The company must either comply with the code or explain why it has not through report to the appropriate body, not through reports to appropriate body and its shareholders. As I told you that it is not a law. That is why there is no compulsion on the companies to follow the principles. It is not necessary for the companies to follow the principle. This is called principle based approach. But if companies will follow the principles, it will improve their reputation in the market. It will basically help to increase their customer base in the market, especially if customers are concerned about the ethics. If customers think that companies should be ethical and companies should follow some ethics, some code of ethics, so it will help them to increase their customer base. Where there will be increase in customer base, it will increase the revenue and the profitability of the company. So if a company is following ethics, or if a company is ethical, or if a company is following code of practice, it will help them to improve their reputation in the market. So increase in reputation in the market also has its fringe benefits which a company will definitely enjoy. Further, he says that choices of the corporate governance regime. Now, what are the corporate governance regime which a company or can follow? The decision to which appropriate to use for a country to be governed by many factors. Number one, dominant ownership structure, bank, family, or multiple stakeholder. It means who owns the organization. Either organization is majorly financed by long-term loan. If a company is majorly financed by long-term loans, what does it mean? It means a company is having bank loan, huge bank loan, its financial gearing is high. So without having banker as a representative, it is not possible for them to make a decision for their organization. On the other hand, another factor which can influence the organization is family influenced or family managed business. If it is a family managed business, then definitely whole family is the influential, and the family is the major decision maker. No one can affect the decisions of the family, even if they have shareholders in minority, but minority shareholders cannot affect the decision making of the company. Another factor is what? Another factor is multiple stakeholders. Multiple stakeholders are whom multiple stakeholders are the one who are different shareholders, which we discussed in the last class. Different shareholders or multiple stakeholder shareholders includes what? It includes private wealthy individuals or private investors. It includes like institutional investors. Suppose bank could be your investor, an insurance company could be your investor, or pension trust could be your investor, or mutual fund could be your investor. So there could be number of institutional investors in a company. So these institutional investors can influence the company. Number two, legal system and its power or ability. If legal system of the country will be strong, then it will make the management liable to follow rules and regulations. If legal company of the country is strong, it will create a sense of responsibility among the management or senior management that they would have to follow some laws and regulations. If they will not follow the laws and regulations, they will face consequences for it. And its power or ability. Power or ability means what is the power of the shareholders, or what is the power of the management. If management is more powerful than the regulatory authorities, then it is possible that management will try to dictate their own preferences over the laws and regulations given by the country. So it is very much important that who has the power. If country legal authorities, regulatory authorities are more powerful than the organizations or than the companies, then definitely they will be able to influence their power and they will be able to implement the law. Next one is government structure and politics. This is very important, that government structure and politics. If a government is An stable government. If a government is suppose selected by the voters, and government has support of their voters, and government has influence over the businesses or companies, then it will be easy for the company, for the government to take care the interest of different stakeholders, which includes community, which includes customers, which includes environmental authorities, all are relevant. On the other hand, the second factor is policies. If government structure will be stable, if government will be stable, then definitely government will make long-term policies, and it will help the government to implement their policies as quickly or as soon as they can. So this is, and as well as it will make the management responsible. It will give a message to the management. They would have that they would have to follow the instructions given by the government. Otherwise, it will not be possible for them to manage their business activities. So no one is independent in the economy. Everyone is governed by the government. Next one is the state of the economy. It is very important factor. If a state of the economy is strong, then definitely big companies cannot influence the government, or cannot influence the legal authorities, or cannot influence the laws and regulations. But if state of the economy is weak, where government is looking for the investors, where government is looking for the corporations, then definitely corporations will be in position to influence the government, and they will ask the government to compromise their laws and regulations, which will give them more power and more authority to influence. So this is the factor which is related with the state of the economy. Number fifth is culture and history. Culture and history is very important, not only with the company but also with the country, where there is a culture of following of laws, where there is a culture that people wants to abide by the law, where there is a culture that people wants to obey the law. Definitely such type of cultures will be encouraged to follow the corporate governance code of ethics or code of practices, because they are already following the laws and regulations. But where there is a culture and history of a country that usually people move against the law, usually people does not obey the law, in this case we can also expect from the companies that they will not follow the laws and regulations provided by the government. Level of capital inflows. Level of capital inflows, how much cash inflow is entered in businesses, either in form of ordinary shares, either in form of preference shares, or it in the form of like bank loan. Ultimately, bank loan is utilized by a company to purchase non-current assets. So for a company, it is very important level of capital inflows or investment coming in the country. As I told you that it is linked with the state of economy. Where there will be strong state of economy, then influx of the capital, then inflow of the investment in the country will not compromise the laws and regulations. But where there will be weak economic conditions or weak state of the economy, then it can influence the country, or it can influence the laws and regulations. Then we have global economic and political climate. Global economic and political climate also expects from the companies to follow laws and regulations. As I told you that in nowadays, those companies who are following corporate governance, those who are following business ethics, or those who are following the laws and regulations, either under rule-based approach or either under principle-based approach, have higher reputation in front of local and as well as in front of global customers. When you have higher reputation in front of local customers, then you will be able to increase your customer base globally. So ultimate increase in customer base will increase your revenues and profitability. And political climate means political stability. Where there will be political stability, then the government will be in position to influence their laws, influence the ethics, influence the code of practice in the economy. It will make the companies responsible, because companies knows that if they will not follow the instructions, they would have to face the strict consequences for it. So political climate and global economic conditions and global economic environment, then customer awareness, then state of the economy, overall culture of the country, all it affects or all influence the corporate governance. Clear? Any question? Okay. Then we have comply or explain. What is this comply or explain? Comply or explain is the approach where there are a few companies who thinks that either they are expected to comply with laws and regulations. If they are expected to comply with laws and regulations, it means they should behave responsibility. But a few companies think that we will wait for the time. If anyone from the legal authorities will ask the question, why are we not following laws or regulation, then we will explain the reasons why. So this is called explain. A principle-based approach requires the company to state that it has complied with the requirements of code, or to explain why it could not do so in its annual report. As we discussed in the last class, that you are expected to show your corporate governance report or corporate social responsibility report in your financial statements. This will leave shareholders to draw their own conclusion regarding the governance of the company. This will leave shareholders to draw their own conclusions. Shareholders will draw their own conclusions regarding the governance of the company. So what does it mean? That shareholders will conclude that either a company is uh, performing responsibly or a company is socially responsible or not. Company is strictly adhering to the corporate governance rules and regulations or not. So this is what which is called comply or explain. We expect from the companies that companies will comply with the corporate governance, and company will explain or show their compliance with the corporate governance in their annual reports, which will give the positive impression regarding the annual reports or financial statements of the company, and company will be able to satisfy the needs of the shareholders, and shareholders can conclude that either a company is following corporate governance rules and regulations or not. So this is what which we expect under comply versus explain. Then we have family structure. What is this family structure? Family structure means there are all the companies, in fact, in the world, all the multinational companies or all the big companies in a country or globally, all starts as a family structure. Most of the companies started with the individual or as a sole proprietorship. Then they became partner or a sole proprietor, added their family members as in the different positions. At a certain point, then he raised fund from the market or crowd funding, and at a certain stage, then this business become a listed business. And after reaching a certain stage, then they decided to issue their shares in the stock market. So family structure exists where a family has a controlling number of shares in a company. Controlling number of shares means a huge number of shares in a company. This is called family structure. As I discussed that Suppose a family holds 51% of the share and company is also making decisions uh, because company is having management control. So rest of the 49% shareholders, although are voters, but they cannot influence the decision. Although all those families which wants to make a balanced relationship between them and 49% minority interest or non-controlling interest, they don't want to create any disruption or disturbance in their relationship. They don't want to compel their non-controlling interest to sell their shares in the stock market, then they definitely make consent or they make a decision which will satisfy their needs as well. They don't only put their own interest first. So this is called family structure. What are the benefits of a family structure? Benefits of a family structure is fewer agency cost. Definitely, when you are running a company on your own or the family is managing a company, then it is quite easy for the company to decide that how much revenue should be retained, how much dividend to be paid, and more, it is most likely that management company is management or family is presenting true and fair view in their financial statements to the whole family or to all the members of the family. So there will be no need of external auditor, although private limited companies also go for the external audit and they hire an external auditor, but definitely they don't need any detailed external audit. They just need an external audit to fulfill the requirement of the Securities and Exchange Commission of their country, or they go for external audit to satisfy the needs of the company law. So agency cost falls. Another factor, when a family is managing the business, the family does not need a separate management. There is no a separate agency relationship. There is no separate principal agent relationship. So where there is no separate principal agent relationship, then in this case there will be limited management because most of the family members are the manager, senior management. So agency cost is falling under what? Under the family structure. Ethics, threats to reputation are threats to family honor. Definitely, if a family will not follow ethics, if a company will not follow codes of practice, if a company will not follow laws and regulations, it will create a problem for them. And they will not be able to sell their shares in future when they want to become a listed company. And it will create concerns towards their ethical behavior. So that's why it depends on the preferences of the family that either they want to recognize themselves a responsible company or they don't want to improve or enhance their reputation in the market. So this is what which is very much important from the family point of view. So family as a whole will decide either they should follow the code of ethics, code of practice or not because of this no agency relationship and no principal agent relationship. Fewer short-term decisions. Definitely family wants to maximize their gains, their goals over the long period of time. They are not required to meet a certain dividend payout ratio or they are not required to maintain certain financial gearing or they are not expected to maintain a certain interest coverage or don't have any other kind of restrictions which usually faced by the public limited company because they have different type of shareholders. They have private individuals, they have institutional investors, they have like any uh, other individuals, number of individuals who has limited share of holding. So a public limited company face number of issues and they need to make a balance between the short-term decisions and long-term decisions. They will make a few short-term decisions to maximize their revenue or they to meet their revenue targets and as well as to meet their profitability targets because they are answerable to number of shareholders and they want to meet the targets to fulfill their own financial needs and other preferences. But in case of a family company, family is only focusing on their long-term growth. So they want to expand their business operations in a shorter period of time, like in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years. So they have different goals and objectives with respect to their own preferences. So they will focus on their personal goals, they will focus on their personal objectives. So fewer short-term decisions are the one which can affect the uh, family structure or which is relevant with the family structure that family will focus on long-term growth, family will focus on bigger issues, family will compromise on the short-term targets because family can decide that there will be zero dividend payout ratio for next 3 years. No, none of the shareholders are the external, so they will be unaffected. But a company cannot say that we are going to continue with zero payout ratio. If they will plan, they have to take their shareholders in confidence and then they can follow such type of plan. But in case of family, there is no issue with this dividend payout ratio. Any question with these benefits? Okay, then we have problems. First problem is Jenny pool. Jenny pool means in the next generation, definitely there will be some differences. And it is not possible that a family structure will remain a family structure for indefinite time period. Maybe possible two brothers, two sisters, or one brother and one sister, or siblings are managing an organization. They started a business as a sole trader, then they became partners, and they established a big company within 25, 30 years time. And now it is the stage where they are about to retire from the senior managed positions of the company and they are going to hand over the company to their next generation. When they are going to hand over their businesses to the next generation, they are not ready to work with each other. They are not ready to follow the instructions of each other. Maybe possible they have their own visions, they have their own missions, they have their own preferences towards the organization's objectives. They want to establish their brand name in a different way in front of customers or in front of market. So there could be such type of Jenny pool problems, which is called problems over generation. Next one is feuds. Feuds means their family fights will start after a certain time, and this is an added element of the cultural complexity. As we discussed that Jenny pool, it is not possible that you will be able to continue your family business as a combined family business for an indefinite time period. One of the reasons is shortage of resources. After a certain stage, you want to expand your business, you want to become a public limited company. That's why you need external shareholders. When you will add external shareholders, either as partners or either as public shareholders from initial public offering from IPO, then definitely it will decrease the power of the family and they decrease the shareholding of the family. It can create family fights and cultural complexity. All of the cultures in the world are not same or each one of the country does not have the similar culture. So cultural complexity also creates the problem and also create family fights. Next one is segregation. Segregation means families separate, and this could be costly definitely when families will divide the business. It will increase their capital, sorry, it will decrease their capital because the one company, suppose a company of a $1 billion is divided among the three siblings or three families. So now each one of them has 0.333 billion. So immediately size of their business has reduced. So now they have to work hard. They have to put number of efforts, or they will add external partners, as I told you, either as business angels, either as venture capitalists, either crowdfunding, either peer-to-peer funding, either as wealthy individuals, either as institutional investors, either as general shareholders, which is called initial public offering. But now they have to add different types of partners in their business, which could be costly of buying out the shareholding and restructuring. So it can create issues with the buying or buyout shareholding, or it can create issues with the restructuring. Any question with this drawbacks of the family structure? Okay. Third factor is insider dominated structure. What is this insider dominated structure? Insider dominated structure is the one where a few people in the organization are very strong, or a small group of shareholders in the organization are very strong, and they can influence the decision making of the company. For example, insider dominated structure includes directors. Directors of the company are very powerful. Either they are mix of executive and non-executive directors both, and they are working or they are behaving like key players of the company, so they can influence the organization. Listed companies are where the listed companies are dominated by a small group of shareholders, or suppose there are wealthy individuals or private shareholders, wealthy individuals, and they hold, suppose, 45% shares. Although it looks that it is the non-controlling interest. But if they say that we are going to sell our shareholding in the stock market, if suddenly 45% of shareholders, 45% shareholders are planning to sell their shares in the stock market, it will definitely raise concern in the market, and it will reduce the shareholding, sorry, it will reduce the share price of the company. So this is a factor which needs to be considered. Benefits, first one is the agency problem is reduced, that is established with links with owners and managers. That those who can influence, they will build their personal relationship with the managers and owners of the organization. Greater access and potentially lower cost of capital, smaller base of shareholders. What does it mean? It means that if there is small base of shareholders, it means there are number of ordinary shareholders who holds huge shareholding of the company. There is no preference share in the company. There is no long-term loan in the organization. So those who has higher number of shares in the company, although their base is low, suppose 10 people of the 10 people holds 50% of the shares. Now their cost of capital or required rate of return of the company depends on their preferences or their requirements. If they are willing to take dividend annually, so company will make their dividend policy accordingly. If they don't want to withdraw the dividend annually, and they want to invest for a long period of time, then definitely they will wait, and company will make the policy according to their preferences. So where there are limited amount of shareholders, it means their preference towards the cost of capital is different than the huge amount of shareholders, and a part of shareholders, the company also has the a shareholding of preference share and long-term loans. Then he says that smaller base willing to take a long-term strategic view. As I told you that dividend policy is influenced by those individuals. If they don't want to withdraw their funds, or if they don't want to withdraw their profit after tax as dividend, and they expect from the management to reinvest the uh, profitability or to reinvest the profit after tax, then definitely management would have to make such type of dividend policy, keeping in mind their strategic review. But suppose if they expect from the management to give them regular dividend, or there should be regular growth in dividend, then definitely management will make a balanced approach which will contain long-term and short-term strategic view both. Improved communication and influence over management, definitely they are in a position to influence the management. They will instruct the management, and it is expected that management will follow their instructions because management want to retain them as their shareholders. Management, in fact, don't want to lose them as their shareholders. That's why it is one of the reasons to accommodate with them or to accommodate with their preferences, because they are the dominant, or they have the insider dominant power within the organization. Right? Any questions? Okay. What are the problems? Lack of minority shareholders protection, unlike protection in law in outsider dominant structure, definitely where there will be influence of a few shareholders, it will affect the interest of the minority shareholders or non-controlling interest. Although law provides protection to law not for non-controlling interest or minority shareholders, and directors of the company, shareholders of the company, or influential shareholders of the company cannot make any decision which will affect the interest of non-controlling interest or minority shareholders. Opaque operations and lack of transparency in reporting. There is a possibility of lack of transparency. Why? Because this these people are influential on the organization, or management itself is influential or in the organization, or directors are the influential or in the organization. So where there are a few people who are influential in the organization, definitely they can influence what? They can influence the transparency of the organization. Misuse of power, there could be misuse of power, that is reluctant to employ outsiders in influential positions and non-executive director. Where there will be dominance of a certain people, definitely there will be misuse of power. Market does not decide or govern. Shareholders cannot exit easily to express discontent. The market does not decide or govern. More when there is an influence of a few people, then they are the governing authority in the company. Then they are the one who are making policies for corporate governance. They will decide that how much code of ethics or code of practice must be followed by the organization. So cannot exit easily to express this content. They cannot say give their point of view which is different than the majority of the shareholders or from the dominant shareholders. Then we have tend to reluctant until forced to develop formal governance structure. As I told you that they will resist against the corporate governance. They will not follow the governance, and they would say that we will decide that what to be followed and what not to be followed because we are in the power. Reluctant to large independent shareholders to invest, definitely they will not encourage the large independent shareholders or majority of the shareholders to invest in the market because it will affect their power in the organization, and soon their power will be divided in the in number of shareholders. Any question? Okay. So this was our chapter number 8, approaches to governance.